Welcome to the Woodpreneur podcast, the best podcast for the business and marketing side of the sawmill, lumber, and wood industry. What's a woodpreneur? If you have a business where you make money as a woodworker, sawmill owner, selling slabs, or a content creator, then you're a woodpreneur. My name's Steve Larziliere, and I started Woodpreneur Life, Acres of Timber, and the Woodpreneur podcast just for makers, wood entrepreneurs, and small business owners just like you. We're on a mission to empower thousands of wood businesses to grow sustainably and put out great products. Each week, I interview makers, sawyers, content creators, and 6- and 7-figure entrepreneurs that know the wood industry inside and out. With topics covering everything from the urban lumber movement, sustainable sourcing and design, we'll discuss the ins and outs of how to grow, monetize, and fully immerse yourself in the woodpreneur lifestyle. If you're a hobbyist, a full-time wood business owner, part-time entrepreneur who wants to become a content creator, or quit your day job to pursue your dreams, the Woodpreneur podcast is just for you. Thanks so much for listening. Now enjoy this episode. Hey, welcome to a brand new episode of the Woodpreneur Podcast. This is your host, Steve Larziliere. Today's guest is Nate Schuele from Full Tilt Timber Framing. How you doing, Nate?
Pretty good. How about you?
Really good. Hey, why don't you tell everybody about Full Tilt Timber Framing? What do you guys do?
So we are a traditional timber framing company. I started it in 2019. We focus on mortise and tenon and traditional joinery. We do entries, full houses, great rooms. I just finished up a pool house. So just think of traditional European style timber framing that you would have seen prior to the Industrial Revolution. That's what we focus on. We do execute it with power tools, obviously for efficiency, but our joinery techniques are mostly pre-Industrial Revolution.
How did you get into that?
My dad taught me when I was a sophomore in high school. He did it when he was in the early 90s before he got into sawmilling, and so he read some books, and that's how he learned how to do it. And then he had a couple more jobs when I was in high school, and that was when I kind of figured out it was something that I definitely wanted to get into.
That's incredible. So your dad read a book and it changed the course of your life.
Pretty much, yeah. He read a book before I was born, and it's given me a business and a ton of opportunities. So it was
That's really
not quite
cool.
sure that's what he expected to get out of it, but it's been hugely valuable for me.
How did you start growing the business?
Instagram mostly. A lot of my leads come from Instagram. So like I said, I just finished up a pool house in Idaho. That's an Instagram connection. And then if not, it's something that it's a contractor that's local that either knows my dad, or now it's getting to a point where my name's out there, word of mouth locally. Mm-hmm. And that's how my business in the state of Montana has been growing. But if it's much farther than about 50 miles, it's entirely Instagram.
Wow. How did you start? Describe your ideal client. Like, how would you describe them, and how did they, aside from Instagram, what do you think is the thing that really attracts them to you?
I typically work with general contractors, and generally I think most of what attracts them to me is the fact that it's a timber design element that an architect came up with that they feel like is too complicated for them to execute, and then I come in with engineering and obviously prior experience, and then I work very hard to execute it to the best of my abilities.
Okay, so it's mainly GCs that you work with, and they find you through Instagram.
Mm-hmm. I do work a little bit with homeowners. That'll be like remodels and stuff, but I haven't worked with a homeowner in quite a while. I've had some instances where homeowners get fired, the general contractor, and then I start working with the homeowner, but that's an outlying experience, obviously.
Yeah. What were those first couple of years like?
I spent a lot of money on tools. They were so I started in August of 2019, so I was pretty much trying to grow a business in the middle of COVID, and we were deemed essential by the state of Montana, so we didn't have to shut down or anything like that, but there was certainly some hoops to jump through, and I did some reclaimed work in Idaho, and construction didn't really slow down a whole lot for COVID, but it definitely complicated like meetings and that kind of thing. I did not make a lot of money my first 2 years, that's for sure, and that's, again, mostly spending it on tools and trying to increase my capabilities. And kind of because I had a lot of hand-me-down tools for my dad, and so I was
Hmm.
just trying to modernize and get that tool arsenal up to increase my speed and capabilities.
Interesting. How did you? Was it like developing your skills on site with jobs, or did
Oh,
you
there was
extra help?
definitely an aspect of developing my skills. For example, I bid this pool house in November of 2020 was my initial bid, and it's complicated. It has a hip roof, and then the building runs and then turns 135-degree and runs again. And so you've got tons of compound miters, tons of different angles. And to be honest, after now that I've completed it, I don't think I could have finished it within my first 2 years. We're getting up to year 5 now, and so I just a lot of building skills and building experience on stuff that's simpler, just single gable trusses and more basic stuff. And then that's kind of allowed me to expand into the more complicated hips and valleys and all that stuff, complicated roof framing. And then my engineering programs helped a ton. I use full 3D modeling, which allows me to measure stuff down to the nearest thousandth of an inch and really, really dial stuff in that I maybe would have difficulty fully drawing on paper myself. I'm not super good at paper drawings, but with the CAD program, I can get pretty fine details and really really understand what I'm trying to build.
Yeah, yeah. And who else is? When did you start deciding to grow the business?
Pretty much day one. I have a notebook somewhere in the office here with I had like 20 goals that I started that I wrote down within like a week or two of starting. And this is circling back to not being prepared and kind of learning the business and learning the skills and growing my skills. But one of the goals was go international in like 2 years, and I'm very glad that didn't happen because there's no way I could have handled it. Um,
Yeah,
it just basically from the start, I wanted to grow it and kind of it's it's my livelihood, so I don't really. It has to grow and expand to obviously be able to buy me a house and that sort of thing. So
yeah,
it's been a day one thing for me.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Hey, that's really interesting. The I remember when when I did my last business, I was like, I want to grow a city a year, right? Like you just have these crazy
Oh yeah,
goals, and then like I went a second city in the second year, and I was like, well, I'm not going to do that again. That was hard.
yeah,
That
no,
was really hard, and it probably took like another like 10 years before it. But what didn't you? I'm curious. What were the processes that, if you were to sort of think back, like what would you have focused on more of in the beginning that would have better prepare you for where you are now? Like if you would have had not no, nobody has regrets, right? Like, but like,
no. I would have focused on improving my shop space and stuff. The I would say that's my biggest issue is I have limited shop space currently. I've always had limited shop space, and when you're
mhm,
handling 30-foot timbers, you need a very sizable area. You need overhead lifts of some kind, whether it's a telehandler or overhead cranes. Because most of my timbers are sub 1,000 pounds, but for the pool house we had a ton of timbers that were 1,200 pounds a piece, and that's just not something you can handle by yourself as a man, and so you have to
mhm.
have shops that can contain equipment and that sort of thing, and that's something that it's always been in the back of my mind, but due to land prices and that sort of thing, it's difficult to execute. And so in a perfect world, I would have somehow found a workaround for the land prices and have better and larger shop space.
Larger shop space, yeah, yeah. Did you? How many are on your team right now?
It's just me and my dad. He has a separate business, but he cuts my timbers.
Okay.
I've it's pretty difficult to get help because a lot of what we do is shop work, and so I'll spend sometimes 2-3 months in a shop just doing fab, just woodworking, and then go to a job site, call the crane, and we put everything up. And
Hmm.
it's everybody wants to be there for crane day, but it's really hard to get people that are passionate enough about it that they want to be there when you're just cutting timbers and piling them in the corner and doing it and rinse and repeat. Um,
Wow. That's a lot of work.
yeah, I work a lot of hours.
That's a lot of work, man.
Yeah.
I mean, especially like big, heavy. So a lot of the stuff that you do is like, is the shop work that prepares the timbers for being raised and that sort of stuff, right?
Yep. So we're fully prefab, so I pre-cut everything. The only thing that I do not cut until I get to a job site is where I'm either interfacing with concrete or interfacing with another building. So my post bottoms get cut and shot for elevation on the job site, and then if I have a plate going into a stick frame wall, then we'll measure and make sure the wall's plumb and check all that, and then I'll cut those tails. But other than that, every single piece is cut, pre-cut, raptor tails, everything is.
Yeah, yeah, that's great. That's great. How did you? I guess how did you arrive at that business model? Because most people like you, they probably have a full team, right, with them. Is this was it like by necessity and by design?
I wouldn't say design, but it's just kind of. I would love to have some help, and
Mm.
but it's been very very difficult to find people. I would prefer somebody that has a ton of passion for timber framing specifically and joinery as kind of a subset. And there's just not a lot of people that really even know what it is. And so that's part of the reason. One of my goals with the Instagram is to expand people's knowledge and get more people familiar with traditional joinery.
And it's such an old craft, right? Like being able to I mean, you really need to find somebody that is passionate about that idea, right?
Yeah, it's not like stick framing or concrete where it's kind of just a modern thing. And don't get me wrong, I've worked with stick framers that are very passionate about stick framing and they love to learn, but you don't. It's not as big of a prerequisite.
So, what is what's the most enjoyable part of your job?
That's that's difficult because I enjoy all of it. I love the design. I do the engineering. I mean, I enjoy. I'll text other timber framers. I'll research in books the appropriate joint to use. I love that. I love talking to other timber framers. Um, and it is tough to beat crane day. I will admit, it's crane day is always awesome because you see the crane rig up and then stuff starts flying towards you, and that's I think that's my favorite. Partly because I like cranes and kind of like a little kid in a sandbox when big equipment shows up. But it's I if I had to choose, I'd say crane day. But I do really really enjoy all of it.
That's great. Um, how is this year going for you?
Um, we're catching up on work that kind of bubbled over from last year. I have a couple of new jobs. I am admittedly a little nervous about the upcoming economy and stuff. People they always get a little shy around the election, but once that's buttoned up, I hopefully will get back to building again. I'm not gonna like lose money or anything. This year will be fine. Um, I just don't have a ton of jobs lined up after like say September,
Yeah,
which
yeah, yeah.
which is kind of a new experience because from 22 to pretty much the beginning of this year I was booked for 12 months,
Wow, wow, wow.
and partly because I'm slow. I don't cut very fast.
Yeah, 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 yeah. um, in terms of was there a particular project that you knew that like when you accomplish this, you're like, whoa, okay, this is what I'm supposed to be doing. Do you remember what that project was?
There was one I did a three bent porch. So in timber framing, a bent is anytime you have a set of posts and then a tie beam. Um, and that was my first like really big structure. I'd done accent trusses and small entries and stuff, but that was 24 feet wide and like 16 feet tall, and it was a full legitimate structure. And stepping back from that and looking at it and how well it went. I was ecstatic with how well it went. And that was the project where I was like, yeah, I'm going to do this for a long time.
That's so cool. That's very cool. Um, all right. Well, this is a part of the podcast where I give you any marketing or business advice. Is there anything that you need help with that you'd like an extra set of eyes and ears on?
Actually, we just launched True Tower Mass Timber in Boise, which is a mass timber company. And so we'd be looking at supplying glue lams and cross laminated timber for high rises, 10, 12-story buildings. Um, and like I said, I just launched it at the beginning of June.
What's
And
it called?
True Tower Mass Timber.
True Tower Mass Timber.
Yep.
Okay.
And I've got friends in the commercial construction industry in Boise, and that's largely why I chose Boise and its growing area, Micron, that sort of thing. Felt like there was a lot more opportunity for mass timber than there is back home in Montana.
Mm-hmm.
And just waiting on leads, and I have been avoiding cold calling people because I feel like I'm far enough into business. I should be relying on my network, but I guess I'm curious if you think it's worth it to cold call people on that, or if I should wait. And the other thing, commercial construction is kind of a boys club and that sort of thing, and cold calling is, I'm skeptical if it's worth it or not.
Interesting. I so I'm so the True Tower Mass Timber is that essentially taking the product that from Jackson that you normally use your in your for full tilt, but then kind of targeting more like bigger construction companies. Is that the idea?
So we would be sawing. So instead of sawing timbers at Jackson Creek Wood Products like we currently do, we would be sawing 1.5 inches by say 12 or whatever, which is a typical glue lamp thickness. We would then dry it, resaw it, straighten it, take it to Boise. We would have glue lamp manufacturing in Boise. I talked to my sawmill manufacturer, and I'm not supposed to tell people, but and I'm not going to tell their name, but they said that they would build me a glue lamp press on the quiet.
Mm-hmm.
And so we would take everything down there. We would make our glue lamps, make our CLT, and then we would run it through a CNC. And so it's
Essentially, make a
similar.
building product. Make a building product.
Yeah, it's similar to what we do with Full Tilt and Jackson Creek. However, it's a glue lamp as opposed to solid boxed heart and FOHC timbers. So there's nuances of lumber production that are a little bit different, but overall it's very similar.
What's your capability? Is it like it's in terms of
I would
production?
have to invest in a ton of money into CNC. And so the business plan that I came up with, and admittedly it's risky, is get this company out there, get contacts, get a contract, and then go to a bank and be like, I need $4 to $5 million, and
Okay.
buy
Okay.
buy my CNC, need a beam sizer, buy that glue lam equipment, buy property, and then build a shop, or more like a warehouse. But
Yeah. Is there anybody else that is doing something similar to this?
there are mass timber companies in the United States, but it's fairly limited. It's a European building style, and it kind of
Mm-hmm.
arose due to uh, environmental concerns with steel and concrete. Wood
Yeah.
sequesters carbon as opposed to steel and concrete, which give off carbon. And so,
Yeah.
trying to meet some of these climate requirements and some of these new
LEED
things that
certified FSC, right? Like these, yeah,
exactly
yeah, yeah. Like
all this
sustainability. So this is a solution for sustainability.
exactly.
Yeah, I mean,
Go ahead.
go ahead. No,
Well, I
you
was
go
just
ahead.
going to say you get your high rises, but you hopefully are reducing the environmental impact a little bit. And like I said, it's something that seems to be coming down the road from a legislation standpoint. And it's something that I have a passion for because, again, it's wood construction, and that's something that I'm a fan of. And so it's something that I would like to get out in front of.
So don't wait for leads. I would go out and get a bunch. I would
Okay.
go out and I mean, a really simple thing for you to do is like go to Canva, right? And put your logo on top and show the finished product and share that PDF. because everybody's going to say, send me some information. You just send them a PDF, and just say, hey, it's sustainable. Um, you deal directly with the manufacturer, and I'd love to quote you on your next job, and
Okay.
that's it.
Okay.
But I would make one PDF, and I would go to what's that called? I'd go to Fiverr or
Okay.
Upwork and tell somebody to scrape a list of all of the Boise and surrounding area general contractors, construction companies.
Mhm.
Um, Go to LinkedIn and friend and connect with every single one of them, and
Yeah.
then literally just say, hey, uh, I have a mass timber company. It's fairly new. I'd love to quote your next project. Here's a one sheet about what we can do. Let me know if you have 5-10 minutes to hop on a call next week. And if you don't want to do it, then you can hire a virtual assistant to do it. But I would, it would, if you hired a virtual assistant to make you a list of, 100 GCs and construction companies in and around Boise,
Mhm.
get their name, address, phone number, email, and then you can go to Canva and create, like, because you know what the end product will look like,
Oh,
right? Like,
definitely.
and just, I would put that on a sheet of paper. Obviously the work that you've done and with Full Tilt, and even Jackson Creek, right? Like, just say who your partners on the
Hmm.
bottom
Hmm.
to show that the legitimacy,
Hmm.
uh, and I would even like throw a review testimonial that you might have gotten for yourself, like
Okay.
just about yourself,
Okay.
on it, just like a one sheet of paper,
Okay.
and just like blast that out,
Okay.
right? And then from there, if you don't get any hits, then text them,
Okay.
right?
Okay.
That I mean, the other thing too is I'm a big fan of following what works. So you got a lot of your leads from Instagram.
Hmm.
So I would build up a brand for this mass timber company, and I know that you have the Instagram up, right?
Yep.
And
Yep.
so build the brand, and um, and start posting pictures of the finished product. And if you don't have it, because you don't have, like, literally use AI to come up with a bunch of different images and post that out there. Use a 9 grid thing, like your first 9 pictures,
Hmm.
um, and then just I would market it like that. But like the opportunity is too great not to reach out
Yeah, because
and
it's
develop.
the CNC investment is massive. Those pieces of equipment are very expensive, cost more than most homes. But
What kind of CNCs are we talking about?
a Hundiger, they're made in Germany.
What's it called?
Hundiger, Hundeggger. They are
Okay.
sweet. They are so cool.
Yeah, they're the ones that can make the mass timber product.
Yep, they can do timber frame too. They can. That's a CNC machine that replaces me.
Wow. So I'm gonna give you something a little bit. I'm gonna give you another just another idea. Is Could you potentially find somebody that has one and subcontract to them?
It's possible. I know of a couple of companies. I also, the guy that used to, he was the head Hundinger mechanic for the United States. He works for a company in North Carolina now, and he follows Full Tilt on Facebook. And I talk to him once in a while and mostly ask questions about Huntingers. He actually works for a company right now that last I heard they aren't cutting anything. Unfortunately, North Carolina, that's a long way to haul material,
Yeah.
but it's that would be the first one that comes to mind. I know of there's I I'd have to ask him specifically, but I want to say there's around 20 Huntingers in the United States, roughly.
Oh wow. Yeah, I would find them. I would find them and figure out like how there's got to be somebody near you or near Boise. Does
There's one in Kamloops, British Columbia that I know of. I know them because of our sawmill manufacturer.
hmm
And then the other one that I can think of off the top of my head is in Texas. That's Texas Timber Frames. Or
okay.
they merged with somebody and they might have changed their name, but they were Texas Timber Frame.
Yeah. Okay. So for me, I'd find somebody, and I would probably make them a joint venture partner on
Okay.
this,
Okay. Because
because
that,
that's cheaper than trying to buy a $500,000 thing yourself.
yeah. Yeah. And that's,
And you could do it for like 2-3 years with them, and the quickest way possible is to partner with people that could, and you almost become a project manager.
yeah.
Same way that you're not manufacturing the timber, you're getting it from somebody else. You're
Mhm.
going to somebody else and they're gluing it up, right? So like, and then the other missing piece is the CNC, correct?
Yep. Yeah.
Yeah, find somebody with the CNC, like, or even if it's not the Hundiger, like find a comparable one.
There's another company that has a CNC. I don't know what type it is, but they have an alternative. Um,
Find them, because that's probably the best use of time, and you can leverage all of their relationships and their experience. Because I mean, I deal with a lot of woodworkers, because you know how to figure things out yourself.
mhm.
Like, I think of the ramp up time and learning of all of that, like that's so hard. So I
Definitely.
would find I would find somebody, because if you go out, because then what you can do is focus on developing the markets,
Yeah. And developing the contacts and the contract with
developing the
locations.
market, developing the contacts, and building the brand around mass timber.
Mhm.
Dude, that would be massive.
Yeah.
Because then when the orders come in, you already know that, like, okay, and if it's going to cost more money, you just ship it to whatever, Texas. I mean, people ship stuff all the time, right? And so ship it to Texas, um, and ship it up to Boise, and then and maybe whatever. But like, I almost feel like finding those partnerships and relationships is going to be essential for you to, if you were going to get this off the ground much faster.
Okay. Because yeah,
Is
it's
that
looking.
helpful?
Oh yeah, that I hadn't thought about that at all. Because I've had partnerships before, and I've kind of gotten to a point where I like to just be in charge, be the only one,
Yeah,
and
yeah, 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 yeah. Well, you could be in charge of the thing that you're the best at.
mhm.
You know what I mean? Like, whatever you're the best at, like, be in charge of that.
Yep.
But if there are other people that are really good at what they do, let them be in charge of that.
Yeah.
you know?
My other option, I would be looking at like hiring that guy out of North Carolina because he
To do what?
to run the CNC.
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah,
Because he has experience running them, he has experience fixing them, and he has
yeah.
connections with the dealers in the United States. He has connections with the factory in Germany, and so he has potential to be a very good resource. Um, but yeah, that would be pretty much my other option to be up and running in a quick amount of time would be hire him and more guys like him.
Yeah. And for me, the first call that I would make is, who has a CNC in the United States, right? That's
Hmm.
first thing.
Hmm.
Second thing is, tell them your idea and say, do you have off schedules when you're not, because they're not 100% at full capacity. If they are, God bless them. That's
Yeah,
amazing.
yeah,
But they're not at 100% capacity
hmm,
at all,
yeah,
right? You could potentially run, if they have one shift and you do your magic on the sales end, they could do a second shift just of your product, and then they added a whole new revenue stream.
yep, yeah.
That's
And that,
it. You know what I mean? That's
that's
that's the way
what's
you got to look at it.
that's what's super cool about the CNC machines is they don't need to sleep.
They don't need to sleep. They don't need to sleep. They just need the product.
Yep, if you can put wood in front of them, they'll kick wood out the back end.
Exactly. Exactly. Is that helpful?
Oh yeah, that I hadn't thought about any of those options.
Cool. Yeah. Well, that's let's make that happen.
Okay. Okay.
Cool. All right, man. Tell everybody your website and your Instagram so they could follow your work.
My website is fulltilttimberframing.com, and then my Instagram is full.tilt.timber.framing.
Cool. Awesome. All right. Thank you so much, Nate, for your time, and I look forward to getting your story out to the Woodpreneur community.
Awesome. I appreciate it. Thank you.